All right, everybody, welcome back into another One Piece video. Today we have the post-game show for chapter 1160. I always have to explain this, but if it is your first time here, what we do in these videos is that we like to go through the comment section for the previous chapter of One Piece and just see what everybody's talking about. After they got the images, after they read the chapter, what are the main takeaways? What are the theories? We are here to find that out together and to have some fun. So, with that being said, let's get right into it, guys. Okay, so top comment is actually me, myself, and I. In this video, I listed out all of the celestial dragon families that we've heard of before. And by my count, I had 12 out of 20. But on that list, I did forget to add the Nerona family, so that's my bad. The main reason I forgot, not trying to make excuses per se, but I forgot because there's nobody around that we see currently that is named Nerona. Of course, there's Emu, but there's not like a God Knight Nerona yet. You know, there's not like a random celestial dragon Nerona yet, so that's why I kind of forgot about them. But also, another clarification I do want to make is that I listed Roswal as a family to encapsulate him, Charlos, and Shalria, but like you guys mentioned, we do not have their actual last name yet. For all we know, they could be the Nerona family, or they could be a brand new family entirely, so I just wanted to throw that in as well. So now, for the actual top comment, it is from Black Tootherson. I see this guy everywhere, dude. You know, it gets to the point where I do so many of these comment videos that I recognize a lot of these names, like just scrolling down right here. Leo. Recognize him. JD, recognize him as well. Love it, dude. We got like an actual community here, brother. So, they say, there's no way they don't heavily censor this in the anime. Death emoji. Easily the darkest chapter in the series. I've seen a lot of people saying that about how this is one of the darkest chapters, and I agree, but I say let it rip. Do not censor it in the anime. Let people see unadulterated celestial dragon action. And we have to remember, right, when it comes to One Piece, they recently switched up their timing on when episodes release. So now instead of releasing Saturday morning, they now release Sunday night in Japan, and that's because they want to show more mature themes in One Piece. So I say let it rip, dude. Let's see the celestial dragons mow down everybody. And I think that's part of it, right? That is part of their character. So we can't censor that. Hell, if anything, add in more killing. Add in more God Knights doing some heinous things. We saw Saint Somers show out. We saw Garling killing people. Gunko was going absolutely crazy. So why not, when the anime gets here, give us more God Knights doing their thing? And here's the thing, right? You could say, well, Sai, they didn't show it in the manga, why show it in the anime? Well, that's because the anime typically does tend to cater towards manga readers. You know, they kind of go all out with the spoilers and adding in additional scenes. And by that point in time, by the time this does get animated, I guarantee that we'll know what the God Knights are capable of. So why not? You know, show us what every one of them can do. Give us like a Borderlands 4 character intro with all these Knights of God, where you got the character just, you know, mowing down 10, 20 civilians, and then boom, Knight of God, Garling, Knight of God, Somers. Like, the intro could go hard. Even give them a theme song. I want to go that far. Give the Knights of God an actual theme song. Nika has the Drums of Liberation, and I've been memeing about this for a while now, but give Emu and his guard the Guitars of Oppression. That would be nice. As the summer of 2025 ends, I think we all need to recognize and officially acknowledge it as the summer of Rocks D. Zebek. I love that. You know, I remember, and hell, I'm sure you guys remember too, but back when Rox was first introduced and he garnered such a massive following immediately, a lot of people were throwing around the R word. It's recency bias. You don't really like Rox. You just like him because he's new. But here we are, like, you know, 5, 6 chapters later. The Rox fan base is still growing. It is stronger than ever, if anything. This says, so, the thing Garling found in God Valley was indeed the Davy clan. Most people agreed that was the case, but some fans still wanted direct confirmation. That is true. Even leading into this, before this latest chapter, I was wondering if they actually found an ancient weapon, if they found a poneglyph, or maybe like a special person's. But turns out it was the special persons, right? It was the Davy clan as a whole, which I think is pretty cool. Kind of hope we find out how Garling found out about them. I think this will have to do with the love story between him. Well, okay, love story between him and Shanks' mom. Like, maybe she just really confided in Garling. She really trusted him. So she said, hey, darling, you know, since I'm impregnated, Why not just spill the beans about this island? Why not convince you to stay? And after Garling found that out, it's interesting that he tried to get the Davy Clan - God Valley to join the world government. If the Davy Clan accepted the offer, I wonder if they would actually hold the tournament here, or if they would just simply find a different island and let the Davy Clan go. Because you gotta remember, Garling did extend that invitation to God Valley. Only after they declined him did it go to such an extreme. So the Davy Clan had an out, they just didn't take it. Of course, though, we don't know what the fallout of that would have been. They still could have executed the Davy Clan. Like, that might have been the condition, but we're not too sure. You know, I hope we do get some more insight as to how Garling's first interaction with the island actually went. It's crazy that this is all in the Elbaf arc. Still, God Valley is going to have to tie back to present-day Elbaf in some fashion. Can't wait to see what Oda cooked. Same. And we have to remember that past God Valley, we will get more from King Harold. It does not stop there. He does end up going to Marie's Raw multiple times on different occasions, and he also meets Shanks there as well. Because when we started this flashback, Shanks said, yeah, you know, I met King Harold a couple of times, and I always wanted to talk to him, but, you know, I wanted to get him away from that island first. So I do think we will get some backstory there. I think God Valley is set up for Shanks' story, as well as King Harold's story too. And I'm excited, brother. I am excited. I can't wait to see what Shanks' interaction with the Holy Land will be, because I'm assuming he doesn't go until after Roger is executed and after Roger disbands the pirate group. So will they welcome Shanks back with open arms, or will they be very hesitant? Or maybe that's where Garling steps in, and Garling is like, hey, my son, you've returned, huh? I don't know. It does sound like, though, that they offered Shanks a spot in the Holy Land, which is more than they ever did for Doflamingo, because Doflamingo tried to go back and they told him no. Even as a kid, they told Doflamingo no. Homing chose to stay down there with the insects. You're gonna live down there with the insects. But as far as Shanks goes, Shamrock kind of insinuated that Shanks didn't want to come back, because he said that Shanks chose to live down there with the lesser beings. So it does seem like they extended the olive branch, which is kind of crazy, dude. The sway that Garling has in the Holy Land, absurd. Absurd, brother. The next comment says, Garp, it's fine now. Why? Because I am here. Also, Bogard the Goat is here too. No, he's not. I personally did not see Bogard in this latest chapter. He doesn't exist. You know, people pointed it out. They said, hey, Sai, he's right here. He's in the last page. I looked. I couldn't see him. You know, it's like a ghost, really, where, you know, he should be there. You know, I saw glimmers of a hat, you know, glimmers of a sword and a coat, but my mind just erased it. Yeah, until Bogard gets an actual feat in the story, until Bogard actually says something, until Bogard's name gets dropped in the story, I just don't believe in this man. You know, he's like a phantom. He's always there, but never doing anything. I just don't know what to say about this guy. Like, if he clashes with Whitebeard or Shiki or Garling or something, then yeah, you know, I'll start believing in Bogard. But right now, like, I don't even know what's the point of this guy. Like, he was at Hachinosu, brother. He was at Hachinosu. He did nothing. Garp got stabbed. There was a swordsman on the island. The ship was about to get destroyed. Bogard did nothing. He didn't even say anything. That's my Bogard rant. I always have it. And, you know, it's the same with Kong, right? Like, I expect at least Kong to do something. But Bogard, though, I just have no clue. I just really don't know, man. What is Oda cooking with that guy? I believe that Mosako is Blackbeard's mother. This is my favorite candidate because she has messy hair, and Loki refers to her with an honorific. This is because she is Rox's wife. Similar to how you thought that Mosako could have been Ida or Estrid, I don't remember. I believe that the care and familiarity that she gives to Loki is because she also has no one, because the world government is trying to erase her too. The reason she has such disdain for the savages that are the celestial dragons is because she was an eyewitness to the God Valley. I want your 2 cents on this. Also, I believe the transponder snail does not display her appearance. It's just one that Elbaf had disposed of for Loki to use. This is my biggest gap in the theory for me. So, funny enough, this right here for me is not a gap. Because when the Denden Mushi snail got introduced, it said snow transponder snail. I think that explains the appearance. Generally, Denden Mushis do take on the appearance of the character, but because this is a very special Dendenmushi, I think we could just ignore this outright. So I do not consider this a gap. As far as my guesses for Mosako, I never had one. I saw the Ida theories, I didn't like them. I saw the Estra theories, I didn't like them. For me, I have always thought that Mosako was going to be a brand new character that was in the Elbaf castle. So far, we have not met a character like that, so my theory is an absolute shot in the dark. So, coming into this theory, I do like this. I do see this being pretty plausible. It would explain why Loki has the honorific. It explains why Loki would want to talk to this person in the first place. I guess now, the main thing we have to explain is why does Loki have contact with this lady? I guess one reasoning, if we wanted to go off with this theory, could be that Rox actually did save his wife. And what they did was that they sent his wife off to be with his best friend, the one person in the world that he told about his family, King Harold. King Harold, you're the only guy that knows. Please take care of my family. Obviously, Rox probably falls at God Valley, so he can't get that message out. Maybe he entrusts this to Whitebeard. Whitebeard is very trustworthy. Maybe he tells Roger about this, because Roger, I think, would also honor his last wishes. Maybe even Garp. Hell, we know Garp took care of Ace, so maybe he also ends up taking care of Blackbeard and his mother as well. I think Blackbeard, though, is the one thing about this that is a gap, right? Because if Blackbeard's mom is alive, then why is she separate from Blackbeard? Because Blackbeard, when Whitebeard picked him up, Blackbeard was at Shade Port. He was not in Elbaf, and we did not see the mom at all. Apparently, Blackbeard was an orphan. That's what they called him. So I think that's the one big gap here. But besides that, I do like the Blackbeard mother route, but I do still think there is a good amount we have to explain. But I do, like I said, I like this more than Ida and Estrid. Ida and Estrid just never made sense to me. Even when it goes down to how they talk, Ida does not talk like Mosa according to Japanese translators. Estrid does talk like Mosa, but we know that Estrid is dead. So these two just don't make sense in my opinion. And then Yarul as well. People are throwing around Yarul. That was also a really weird one, because why would Yarul act like he doesn't know Loki? That also doesn't make sense. And then, of course, same for Ida and Esther. Why are they all acting so weird around Loki? That's just weird. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. I like the theory. I do like the theory. Dragon wanted to help Shanks and Shamrock without even knowing them shows his deep conviction. He must save people no matter what. In the spur of the moment, his default option is to save the slaves, doing what's right, even knowing the risks. He isn't swayed by orders or reputation, and that hit hard. There's more to Dragon I want to know. What was his conversation with Garp after God Valley like? He was disgusted by what he saw. If I were Dragon, I'd have hatred towards Garp. Recruited by his own father, yet there was no justice, only the killing of innocent people in a native hunting game. For that to be his introduction to the Marines is insanity. Also, I would like to see a flash on how Dragon lost Shamrock in the mix, or a flashback from Garling's POV when he faces Dragon in the future. I don't think this is a stretch. You don't have to say I wish. I think we're gonna get this, brother. There is, in my opinion, if we continue with God Valley, there is a 0% chance that we will not see this. This is so pivotal. If Oda really cuts away from Dragon after all this buildup, doesn't make any sense in my opinion. You go on and you say it's gut-wrenching, knowing, witnessing, and even participating in these events under the name of justice, alike with Ohara. Deep down, they all knew it wasn't justice at all. It was just the world government trying to erase history, dismantle knowledge, and silence anyone who studied the truth from 800 years ago. Imu has been in control for a very long time. 800 years of systematic erasure, slavery, and genocide. It's overwhelming. And it continues into the current timeline. One Piece could be a very depressing story when you think about it. Yeah, it could be. This is what people wanted from Dragon, right? We kind of knew that Dragon was very empathetic, sympathetic, whatever you want to call it. Dragon is that dude. And yeah, I feel like for the Dragon fans out there, they love this chapter. This is what they expected from their GOAT. Personally, I'm not the biggest Dragon fan, but I do love that, Dragon is getting the spotlight. I think that's a major W for his fan base. And as far as Imu goes, I do wonder if Oda will take the time to humanize him. I think he will. When we get that Void Century flashback, I think we could see a very different side to the world government, right? It goes back to the whole notion that when you start a system, things can change over time, right? The original intentions of the world government might not be what the world government is today. I think after 800 years of, going through all these families, after 800 years being the absolute power in the world that nobody knows about, I feel like Imu could have been corrupted, but we'll see. And one thing I do want to ask you guys, and I might hold a poll on this as well, so go vote on that poll, but Do you guys think that the celestial dragons will be redeemed by the end of the story? Do you think they'll all still be alive and just, you know, not have the title? Or do you think that the celestial dragons will die? Because I have seen a lot of people echoing that sentiment that these guys should be slaughtered for what they've done. And I'm pretty mixed on that one. I think the way Oda's going, he could be aiming towards I wouldn't say redemption, but I think he'll show that the celestial dragons can change once they know the truth of the world, which is another hazy thing, right? Because the celestial dragons, they showed in this chapter that they know about the Davy clan, but what do they actually know? What has Imu been teaching these guys for the past 800 years, right? 800 years of propaganda built up the celestial dragons of today. So I'm curious. And, you know, even going with that route, does Imu even care about the celestial dragons? We do know that if you attack one, an admiral gets sent, so they do care to an extent, but Imu personally, do they see these families and remember the original 20 kings and queens? Or is he only holding on to them because of a promise? I don't know. And now, going off of your last comment about One Piece being a depressing story, I think people can view it that way. You know, you can even look at it as a hopeful story as well, because we know there's going to be a happy ending to some extent. And now, going back to what you said up here, because this is something I love thinking about, right? The Garp and Dragon interaction post God Valley. I think this will be a really fun combo to be a part of, mainly because I think it kind of goes back to what you said, right? Dragon saying there's no justice, but Garp is still supporting the system. But we don't know how Garp feels about this yet, right? We've heard that he hates celestial dragons. Sengoku mentioned that. And of course, when he was talking to Stelly, he called the celestial dragons trash. He called them scum. So we know that Garp has a lot of animosity towards them as well. But is Garp doing anything in his own power to change the system that we just haven't seen yet, right? Maybe we get a conversation where Garp's like, hey, I'm trying to change it from the inside in my own way, or I'm just doing what I can. Like, I can't, you know, fix 800 years of all this. Like, I think there will be portions of Garp that people will understand, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If anything, that's the beauty of One Piece, right? You get so many different sides of the coin here that you could look at. And yeah, overall, One Piece W. We can now exclude the Thorn and Arrow Devil fruits from the list of potential fruits in the 9 chests. That is true. Wait, no, you're so right. I didn't think about that. Yeah. A lot of people were wondering if the God Knight fruits we see here in Elbaf were fruits in the chest, but this chapter does confirm that Sommers had the Thorn fruit and that Gunko had the Arrow fruit. Huh. Cooking, man. You're absolutely cooking. This one says, Sai, Roswald is not the family. Yep, I mentioned this. Roswald is not the family name. We still don't know what family him, Charlos, and Shalria are a part of. Also, if you forgot, Nerona family is Imu's family. I like the theory that Charlos and his family are also from the Nerona family. If they are from the Nerona family, and I think this is true even if they're not, but I kind of hope that with the introduction of the Knights of God, that we get one member from this branch right here, from Charlos, Shalria, and Roswald, that is a straight killer, right? Now that the Knights of God are straight up ore farming 24/7, I hope we get an ore farmer from this family. Maybe like a big brother, you know, maybe the wife is the ore farmer, maybe there's like a cousin. I think that'd be sick. You know, like Charlos could be like, hey, cousin, please save me. It's base form Luffy I'm fighting. It's Sai and Leo. And then here comes Charlos's cousin, like, ah, yes. Who are you to pick on my little cuz? Yeah, that's how it'd go down. The thing I fear most, or the thing I most fear, is that we get too attached with God Valley, that when we shift back to Loki and Herald, a lot of people are going to be complaining. This happens all the time. You know, this is the ebb and flow of One Piece. I think, yes, it'll be a little bit annoying, but that's just how it goes, right? All good things must come to an end. And I feel like if we do get enough from God Valley, this will be lessened, right? If we spend 3, 4, maybe even 5 chapters at God Valley, I think that the amount of people who will complain will dwindle. You know, I think people will only truly complain if we leave God Valley prematurely. You know, like imagine we get a bunch of clashes, clash, matchups, Devil Fruit reveal, and then time skip. Hey, look, it's King Harold going to Marie's Raw. It's like, okay, you know, I would understand that one. As long as it all gets fleshed out, I think the complaints will die down. Hot take. The God Knight baddie is from the Dracul family. Mihawk's aunt, Shaki, paid Wang Ji to have her get kidnapped, so Rayleigh will have to save her. This is a crazy one. I've seen people saying this. Shaki wanted to get kidnapped. I don't think that's the case, because you gotta imagine, if Ginny and Big News Morgans did not leak information, the Roger Pirates would have not gone. Shaki would have been holed up with Garling, with essentially no rescue in sight. And hell, she's been held for an entire year. if her plan was to get kidnapped, I think she also would have paid Wang Ji to tell the Roger Pirates exactly where she's at. Like, they would not have left her with the Celestial Dragons for a full year. I think this is a fun theory, but I feel like there's a lot of holes in this one. As far as the God Knight baddie being from the Dracul family, you should be talking about the black-haired one to the left of Garling in the Knights of God spread. I don't mind it. I hope we do get some sort of Mihawk family reveal via Celestial Dragons or God Valley. The problem is that I think a lot of people say that she is a Dracul member because in the manga she has like really dark shaded hair, right? We're like, oh, black hair, that's got to be related to Mihawk. But in the anime, she's blonde. Crazy, right? Oda shaded her hair in as dark as can be, and then in the anime, blonde hair. I don't know what happened there. Maybe there's like some, miscommunications, but I feel like we're so late in the game that doesn't really happen anymore. You know, black turns to blonde, we just call it that. So I don't think this is true, but I do, like I said, I do hope that Mihawk gets fleshed out somehow, some way. Personally, I think this is in the cards because later on, like I said, when we get back to King Harold's POV, he does meet Shanks. And the Shanks that King Harold meets is two-armed Prime Shanks, right? That should be the Shanks that's also clashing with Mihawk. So I could definitely see Mihawk being brought up somehow, some way. Maybe King Harold mentions it. Maybe Mihawk is at Marie Joie. You know, I don't know when he becomes a warlord, but maybe that's why he's up there. Maybe he is just a Celestial Dragon overall. But yeah, I think we'll get something with Mihawk here. I hope, at least. I hope. You know, we got a surprise dragon introduction. Surprise Blackbeard introduction. A surprise Mihawk one? Not crazy. I mean, how we even got Kozuki Moria, brother. We got Kozuki Moria. Mihawk is around the corner. This comment says, I didn't think we would get it this early, but I'm here for it. It looks like some of the chest designs are repeated. Do you think that means anything? Like maybe if they're devil fruits, the black trim are the Logias, the plain looking boxes are Paramecia, and the center one is a legendary, etc. I like that. I have seen that these treasure chests do look somewhat different. Some are repeated, like you said. I think this would be really cool. And not just this, but I think that could also determine the value of the fruits, right? Maybe that's not exactly the case, like, oh, you know, the black trim or Logias, etc. Maybe it's just like they rank it based off a power level. They're like, oh my god, it's a mythical Zoan. That deserves a black trim. Oh my god, it's like a really cool Logia, black trim. I think that could be it too, right? Because they're ranking these characters, right? The individual competition, the clan competition, etc. So last place probably get like the nasty ass looking boxes, whereas like the top tiers, they'll get like the legendary looking ones, which that's a lot of fun. It's like a loot box. It's like a loot box. And I also think this is why, by the way, Oda decided to skip over the God Knight introduction, because in lieu of that, I think he also would have had to have introduced the prizes, because I've never seen a competition in my life where you enter it and you don't know what you're fighting for. We know about Shaki, but the 9 treasure chests, yeah. Oda skipped over that one intentionally. This says, I saw a lot of people think it was Douglas Bullet behind Roger, but no, that's actually Rangram. One of the members revealed in the SBS. That is true. I've seen the Douglas Bullet takes here and there, but we have to remember, right? At this point in time, Douglas Bullet, I think, is 7 or 10 years old. So yeah, it's not Douglas Bullet at God Valley. And then of course, when Douglas Bullet joins the Roger Pirates, he's like a full-grown adult. So the timeline does not match with this one. It is indeed Rangram behind Roger, even though Oda did draw him a little bit like Douglas Bullet. I will admit, I see why people said this, right? This isn't like insane, but it's one of those things where like you see it and then you gotta like actually put the pieces together, and then it's like, oh no, it's cool theory, but doesn't line up. Hyridin, how do you know about all the parts you weren't there for? Loki, shrug gesture meme. Yeah, we don't ask Loki these questions. I mean, maybe the Rock's remnants go to Elbaf afterwards? Maybe Rox is buried in Elbaf. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah. I mean, we do know that Whitebeard is buried at Sphinx Village. God Valley doesn't exist anymore, so he can't be buried in his homeland, so I guess you'd have to bring Rox to his second favorite place, which might be Elbaf. You know, you could say Hachinosu, but we know that Wang Ji has that under his command. So, you know, you bring Rox's corpse to Hachinosu, people might just piss on it. People might just destroy it. I say bury Rox here in Elbaf, and then maybe somebody drops this story to Loki, which would be really sad when you really think about it, because Rox is Loki's hero. Imagine you don't see your hero for a while, and the next story you hear about them is that they're dead. Yeah, they died. Died at God Valley. His family also cooked. His clan wiped out. This says, imagine how angry the fan base will be if Oda decides to make the next chapter a Loki news reaction and we skip to him being dumped by Lola. See, this would be bad. You know, going back to somebody saying I fear for the day when this ends, this would cause a storm. Oh my god, dude. I want more Loki story. Don't get me wrong, I want more of the Loki story, but if it's at the cost of God Valley, after all this buildup, I'd be a little bit salty. I'd be salty. Especially when Oda took the time to reintroduce all the players. Because he did this during the Kuma flashback, right? 1096, oh, Roger Pirates, Rocks Pirates, God Knights. He did this again, just to cut away? No. And then we'd have to get God Valley a third time, and then he'll do the same thing, like, hey, here's all the players one more time. Like, it has to be now. It has to be now. That would be returning back to his story, but the vast majority of the fans would be outraged, and I think rightfully so. Right? He blue balled us during the Kuma flashback, but that was understandable because Kuma left early. Here, though, we're following Rocks. We've been following Rocks without Herald. We're gonna get it. My chips are down. We're gonna get it. This says, as expected, Wang Ji stayed behind in Hachinosu. I don't know how the other members didn't suspect him being a traitor because of that. I think because a lot of people just expected Wang Ji, like all the others, to be in love with Shaki, and that they wouldn't do this, right? I think that's the main thing. Like, oh, Wang Ji must have loved Shaki. He's also heartbroken. I think that's it. This says, Sengoku wasn't there, and seemingly no Marines know about this legendary incident, even though we see numerous Marines there. I suspect Garp pulled what he did at Pirate Island and told the Marines to leave the island. They only know that Syvduck lost via Saturn, giving the credit to cover up Imu showing up via Gonko, in my opinion. Garp and Roger are aware of Imu. This explains the Gorosei wanting Garp dead, but leaving him due to his hero status. Roger is then set upon the truth seeker path. The irony of Syvduck is he accomplished nothing, explaining why no pirates glaze him. Blackbeard is on a revenge tour and is aware of Imu too via Baby Teach witnessing Syvduck's death. Yeah, pretty much. You just stated a lot of facts here. As far as this, though, Imu showing up, this has not been confirmed, but I love it. I think Imu showing up just makes a lot of sense. I could even see Imu making fun of the Davy clan. Like, oh, after 800 years, no one can live up to Davy Jones. Ah, finally, I can get rid of the Davy clan once and for all. Or, ooh, I'm gonna be the one who does it. And then they kill Rocks. Yeah, I think that could be pretty possible. And as far as Garp telling the other Marines to leave the island, I think this also fits because his son is here. Like, he sees his son in the middle of all this chaos, and he's like, hey, boy, get your ass out of here. You can't handle Roger or Rocks. But then again, this is Garp we're talking about. Wait a minute, this is Garp. He kind of let Luffy loose to wolves at Goa Kingdom, so maybe not. No, this is different. This is different, right? You expect Luffy to beat a tiger in a forest. You expect Luffy to climb a mountain as a kid, but, you know, with all these killers here, yeah, maybe Garp does tell the Marines to leave the island. I could totally see that. So, next comment says, Yamato, I'm very sure nobody's gonna attack us. Blackbeard, Pirates, Cross Guild, WG showing up, you're saying. One thing I saw, I didn't realize this myself until somebody mentioned it in the comment section, but in the latest Yamato cover page story, it could just be an inconsistency, but there's no Straw Hat flag up at the Flower Capital. Somebody said last when we left that the Straw Hat flag was like in the Flower Capital, like it was in broad view, but in this latest chapter, it wasn't there. And I think that is kind of fascinating. Like, is that a mistake, or are one of these factions actually here? Because I think that would be cool. You know, as much as I want to move on to the next cover page story, I do still want Yamatos to have an amazing payoff. I want it to have a fantastic ending, and Wano is such a melting pot of different characters wanting to come here that, yeah, like, bring them in. Bring them in. I think the Man Maya Girl has the same ringed eyes as Mihawk, Zunisha, Caribou, and Cavendish, which is why Oda is specifically hiding her eyes. I like that. I don't think this is bad. I've heard people saying this too, like this could be the family that Mihawk is from. I don't know how I feel about that one yet, because we already have two Man Myers, right? Man Meyer Gunko, Man Meyer this girl. So if Mihawk really is a Man Meyer, we're kind of just putting everybody in just one little family here. So I hope that's not the case, but ringed eyes though, in general, I enjoy. And just imagine, right? Mihawk Man Meyer. People start calling his ass Eminem, and that just, oh, that would unlock a brand new level of slander, brother. But yeah, ringed eyes, third eye, maybe even dichromatic eyes like Gunko would be pretty cool. Maybe even no eyes. Ooh, because she is like a marksman, right? She has like a rifle. Imagine if she's blind like Fujitora. Like she just has her eyes closed 24/7. That'd be kind of sick. Oh, wait a minute. Gunko has like the bandages over her mouth. This girl could be like the inverse. She has bandages over her eyes. Yeah, those man Myers and their bandages, it could go kind of crazy. I don't know what that would do. I guess it would just be a flex, right? You're a sniper that can't see. So it's pure observation hockey. Not bad, not bad. Just want to add that the cigar smoker God Knight looks a little bit like Killingham, especially the teeth. Could be a family member. Yep, people are saying this could be Killingham's sister or mom, and I like that idea. People are also throwing out that she could die at God Valley, and that's why Killingham joins in. Like, she falls to, like, Big Mom or Kaido or something, and then boom, Killingham gets a promotion. But I kind of hope not, right? I hope none of the Knights of God die on the island. That'd be kind of crazy. That would be such a big L for the faction, wouldn't it? Yeah. Maybe we don't kill them off. Oh, dude, imagine that's the reason why we don't see the eyes. Like, Oda doesn't want to spend time with the man Meyer girl because she's just gonna die. That would be so sad. Who would her opponent even be? I was talking to Brago the other day, and, you know, we were joking, like, oh, the man Meyer girl, she's gonna go 1v1 against Roxy Zabek. And it's like, okay, that's not really gonna happen, but, you know, if you had to put her against somebody, you know, Oda likes to pair up similar weapon types. She's a gunman. The only other gunman we've seen would probably be Captain John. He has a pistol, right? Well, Captain John and Gil Bastar. Gil Bastar has 4 pistols. So yeah, maybe she goes toe-to-toe with them. Another great option would be somebody from the Roger Pirates. But Roger, like, here's the problem with Roger's crew. He has so many people in his gang, like literally 30 crew members that people generally just do not care about or even know. You know, when you look at Rox's crew, yeah, they got like fodder pirates, but you know the main cast. There's like 10 of those guys, man. You got Whitebeard, Shiki, Gloriosa, Stussy, Wang Ji, Ganzui, Barbell, Captain John, etc. Like, you could keep on going on for a minute, but for Roger, you have Roger, Scopper, Rayleigh, Rangram, that people just remember this chapter. You have Crocus, who's not even here right now. Douglas Bullet, who's not even here right now, right? Odin, who's not even here right now. You have Jackson Banner, though, who people kind of forget about. You also have Sunbell, which is like the Barbell equivalent. Did we even see Sunbell in this chapter? I don't think so. I don't even think we saw him in the background. So yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. But yeah, if you guys had to put a person against the man Meyer girl, who would you go with? I personally got Captain John. Maybe it's Big Mom. You know, Oda does like do a lot of girl and girl fights, so maybe that's like a trope that he carries on here. But yeah, this one says Blackbeard never sleeping now makes so much more sense. It wasn't that he didn't need to sleep, it was because he couldn't sleep. Dude was traumatized. Yes, that is true. And it's funny, you know, looking at this chapter, it kind of looks like the mom is making him watch, right? Like, usually if something bad happens and your kid's there, you like cover their eyes. The mom is kind of like, oh, look at this, Cheech. Oh, like, oh my God. Cover his eyes, please. Don't let him see this. But yeah, I think this is fun. I think this seems like a very One Piece thing, right? Like, this just seems like a trope that Oda would do. And I like it. I do like it a lot. And I still think the meme is hilarious. But Blackbeard as a kid, when Oda had to depict him not sleeping, it was Blackbeard crying and looking at the moon. And somebody said, oh, he's looking at the moon and crying because it looks like Garling. And it's like, hey, that's par for the course. I mean, he's not wrong. Garling did cause all of this. You know, Blackbeard versus Garling. Maybe that's the matchup we should be looking forward to. All right, and now for the last comment. They say, God Valley hype. Got my chips on Rox, Garling, and Rayleigh for the God Valley MVPs. Ooh, God Valley MVPs. I think I'd go with Garling for sure. And then Rox, I think Rox is just going to have a really sad ending, which, you know, I would also consider being an MVP for. But Rayleigh, I don't know. Rayleigh does end up with Shaki afterwards. I bet Rayleigh does get like the Prince Charming save here. But if I had to like pick somebody different from you, I would go with, Roger's an easy one. Okay, I don't want to see anybody obvious. How about that? Let's eliminate Rox, Garling, and Rayleigh. I'm picking people who are not obvious. Gunko, for sure. If we're going with the Gunko emo route, I think I want to go with that. It's a little bit of a theory, but I like it. I want to say the guy with the skull, like the God Knight with the skull and the scythe. I think it looks kind of cool. I'm expecting like some kind of death power, so maybe that's gonna be a thing. And then somebody from the Rocks crew, Barbell. I hope he does something. Barbell's a catfish, man. He's gotta be fishing. I hope so. Or maybe like we see the relationship between Barbell and Sunbell, you know, 2 fellow fishmen. Oh, that'd be kind of fun, right? And then maybe Barbell looks at Sunbell and he's like, oh, you're following that dirty pirate Roger, aren't you? You scallywag daisy pusher, you flower picking bumblefuck. Like, oh, dude, the fishman insults could go nuts. But yeah, that's my picks. Are they realistic picks for MVP? No, not at all. But if I had to avoid like the obvious ones, those are the guys I want to put the onus on. Maybe Bogart if he does something, but you never know with that guy. So with that being said, though, guys, thank you so much for joining me in this video. I really freaking appreciate it as per usual. We will be back in the next couple of days with some more poll videos. So stay tuned for those. You know, obviously here in the community tab, I have a bunch of polls running, and kind of like how I do in these videos, I like going through the comments and discussing all the options and the theories as well. So make sure to visit that. Also, I don't know if it's up yet, but me and Brago, we have a collaboration channel where we talk about non-One Piece related topics, movie reviews, trending news stories, etc. It's called Brysago. Cursed name. If that channel is up and running, I will be linking it down in the pinned comment, so stay tuned for that. And that's pretty much it. I'll catch you guys later. Also, I have my own side channel. Gotta plug myself a little bit. It's called Syvduck, Syvduck here on YouTube. I also stream it every other night on Twitch, so make sure to stop by, say hello, and that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, Somnus reacts too, and reactions on YouTube. Fun stuff. But anyways, thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it as per usual. Peace out and stay safe, brother.